Yeah, exactly.
What about actually? Is now a good time to talk a little bit about the kingdoms?
So yeah, I mean, we can talk a little bit about it. I mean, unfortunately, I wish I had more information about it. Kingdoms. It was kind of like that was one of the things that we were starting to work on for Infinity 4, and it was kind of like the idea of just we were trying to provide more like story driven kind of gameplay. I mean, if you were into the toy box enough to where you can just go in and build stuff and create things, it was awesome because you had so much of that to do. But
Right.
there was a lot of people that would get into the toy box and they'd be like, okay, now what? Like what are we supposed to do here? Because they may just not have had the creativity or whatever that is to just go in there and start building things. I mean, it wasn't for everybody.
Yeah.
Not everybody wanted to have to go and work and build an entire. And so they were coming up with different ways, like how can we offer more gameplay, whether it was story driven kind of stuff, and so this was kind of heading in that direction where we wanted to do these like episodic kind of little chapters, story things that would be going on in the game. And so there was a really quick demo that we did, and it was also trying to push a lot more of the mashing the characters together because they were already able to play together in Toy Box. You had your play sets where everybody was kind of in their own universe, but in the Toy Box you can combine everyone. And so we were trying to just take that same idea of like, you can combine everybody here, but now what if we did little chapters or little experiences, where Mickey and Yoda are running along, and then suddenly they come across, this little narrative that's happening, between Spider-Man and who is that, Green Goblin,
Green Goblin, yeah.
And then suddenly they're having to help each other to get out of a jam, and so you'll see in the demo where, Spidey's fighting off Goblin, and then suddenly the big tower gets exploded. And this is really, really early, just primitive kind of just a little test thing that we were doing. And this thing kind of starts falling, and suddenly Yoda's got to get involved, with the Force, and so it was an idea that didn't get really far of just coming up with different scenarios and stuff that you can jump into and play these things, and so that was kind of the idea with that. And I don't know how far they got along with it. As an animator, I'm kind of on the outside of a lot of the technical aspects of how they would have made it work. They try to keep us artists out of that stuff.
Right.
So it was just a quick little test that we did with a really basic scenario of how characters might be able to interact with each other. And so yeah, that's kind of what that was.
So, I mean, this was something that I think the fans had been asking for a very long time. So the fact that this is finally coming to fruition, I think it was not only a statement for the game. I've said this before on the show, but I just think it kind of is a sign that the game's respected and it's matured to the point where it could pull this off. I've heard anecdotally that a story was pretty well underway and that it was very funny. I heard that being able to mash up the characters together, putting them in these situations, just was really, really funny. I don't know how much of that is true, but it's definitely
there was a lot of different stories. I don't remember a lot specifically. I mean, I know they had a lot of them planned, but they hadn't been written yet. I think there was a lot of different concepts and ideas. Like that test there was just a really early. It wasn't even fully fleshed out as far as storyboarded or written. I think they had a couple of boards, but it was that there was almost just like a pitch for the idea of what was to come. So it was like, what if we just did this quick little thing, and none of that even played in game. It was all like a cinematic, and so nothing was really built. It was more just like, let's do a quick little scenario showing these characters kind of helping each other out, that kind of thing. And that was about as far as that went, at least as far as I know.
I love how, just even though it was just concept, I love how the castle's in the background, and the Mr. Scrooge's money bin is there in the background, right, as well as like building blocks and a city.
Yeah, because it was all supposed to take place in the toy box. And so they were throwing in different items from the toy box just to remind everyone that where this is happening. Because I think early on we had some set pieces from different play sets, and it was like, well, it really wouldn't look that realistic as the building from whatever the Marvel playset. It would be more of a toy type building, and so that's why those kind of things were thrown in there.
So I think that might answer this question that Ikerman in the chat is asking. So was this like Toy Box story mode? So was it kind of like an episodic playset with all the characters and not being focused on one particular property?
Yeah, okay. I guess that's probably a good way to describe it. It was like these little episodic kind of little scenarios that you would encounter, and it was. I think it would have been something kind of cool because we were talking about doing like these more interactive type cinematics, you know, where you're seeing pre-animated or a unique animated narrative happening, and then that you would get involved with, kind of thing. I see. And I think that's something I think they talked about, kind of. I don't know if that been talked about or not. I know it was something the fans had been asking about a lot, and that was something that was really important to the developers there at Avalanche. I mean, they really did try to listen as much as they could to the fans, whether it was, John Blackburn and Vignacchi and Jeff Bunker. I mean, they really, we really took it to heart, when the fans were asking for stuff. And, there was a lot we wanted to do, a lot that we just couldn't do. And so I think we made the best of it, what we were able to do within the constraints, that we had. But man, it was, there was things, we would hear all that stuff, and it's like, we understand, we'd love to do it. At times it was like, people would ask for the most random characters, and it was like, there's just not enough hours in the day to do all these. I mean, I used to say, we can make Infinity for 10 years, and you'll still have some fans saying, unless I have whatever Herbie the Love Bug in this game, I'm not playing it. It's like, oh man, there's only so much we can do. I gotta have Basil the Mouse Detective. I refuse to play this game. He's my favorite. It's like, all right, man. Like,
that's too funny.